Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. I want to welcome everyone to our February town hall for new managers. Today we'll be doing things a little bit differently than we have in the past. Chad is going to present on the commodities, and Chad is with the Department of Health and Human Services Commodity Office. We will be recording this session, so if you ask a question, your picture will be prominent. So if you don't want your picture taken during the recording, just make sure that your camera is off. And we are very appreciative of Chad taking the time out today to show us how to do the order for the school year 2023-24. So Chad, I'm going to turn it over to you at this time.
Okay, thank you. So I guess the first thing is to have a username and password for CNP Web and log in, and you guys can kind of follow along as I'm going through the system here if you want. If you don't have a username and password, that's okay. You can just watch, but get a hold of Brian or I if you don't have credentials to log in yet. But I guess without further ado, we'll kind of go over this first screen here, and this is the landing page that that you see when you enter your username and password. And then, the first thing you do is read through this. It's like a little disclaimer. It kind of explains how the NOI works, and that's if you purchase a product from U.S. Foods, and if the product is made by a manufacturer we have a participation agreement with, then you will get a discount on your invoice. And that money comes from the food that we send to these processors. And it's all tracked in a separate website that's maintained by a couple third parties. And they, tell us how many pounds or what percentage of our bank is left. And I try to keep this updated so that everybody can see how much inventory we have left at these various processors. So it looks like I need to update it's been 2 weeks since I've done it, so I need to get on that. And then down further below here, we have scheduling. If you want to schedule a certain day or time with US Foods, we have their contact information there. And a little section down here under resources where we've got links to the food buying guide. We've got the USDA Foods database, which now has allergen and nutrition information, information sheets for US Foods, Brian's email, my email, and the last thing is the recipient agency agreement, which everyone agrees to by continuing. So with that, we'll click on continue. And then we have the program year selection. So next school year is school year 24. So we'll click on 24. And it's a little different view for the state user, which is myself, but we'll just pick a school here. I always go to Adams Central. They're easy to find. So you may come to a screen. I'm not sure how schools see their screen when they first log in, if it's the summary menu, or it might jump straight to the sponsor summary. So what you want to do is get to the sponsor summary. And there's different tabs across the top of the screen here. It's kind of set up like a file folder. And in general, going from left to right is the process of USDA Foods through the school year on our monthly allocation cycle. But I guess the first thing we want to check is, it lands on the allocations tab. So you'd want to click on revise and take a look at the names and phone numbers and email addresses there and just make sure everything is up to date. If it is not up to date, you can just type in the right stuff and then come down to the bottom and click submit. Well, I'm going to cancel out of that since we don't want to change anything. The next tab over is entitlement, and that'll show how much entitlement is allocated to your school district for school year 24, how much is used and how much is left. And this bonus section over here doesn't really come into play until the school year starts, when we start having surplus inventory, and that comes from allocations that are reduced. So anytime you reduce an allocation, it goes into a bucket of inventory called surplus, and that surplus can be entitlement or bonus. And if it's bonus, it does not charge entitlement, and it'll keep a running total of the value that you order under this column right here. So the next thing to do, and what we're kind of focusing on today, I think, is the survey for school year 24. So we'll click on the survey tab. And here you can view or edit. We're going to click on edit. And then, by the way, you can only work on this until February 28th. After that, it'll be closed. So that'll bring up this screen here. You can see there's 7 different categories. And this is the number of products under each category. And so, we can just click on cheese, for example. That'll bring up a screen. There's a box for every month, for every product. And there you would just enter like a 1 or a 10, whatever you want to request. And come down to the bottom, and you can either hit calc or submit. Calc will show us how much entitlement is used. There it shows category entitlement used $540.10, but that's for just those 11 cases of product there. So if you want to change it, you can go back to 0, come down and hit calc, and it goes back to 0. So then I guess the next thing to do is just kind of decide, which products you want and how much, and when you want it delivered. So one thing we're doing different this year is we're going to offer yogurt 4 times a year. Last year it was this school year, it was just twice a year. So we're going to do it in September, November, February, and April. And it's kind of tricky with yogurt because we get a truck in and we have to get it out to you in 1 month. We can't let it carry over to the next month because it would go bad. So that's why I spaced the months out, so that we know that everything is going to, for September, we'll order a truck in, or half a truck or quarter truck, whatever it takes to fill all of the requests. We'll have that arrive around September 1st or maybe August 31st. And then it'll be allocated out and delivered in September. And then I didn't do December and January because those are short months with the holiday breaks. I didn't really want to risk not being able to get a whole truckload in and out in those short months. So that's that. If you're a school, you can click on DoD favors. And that is DoD Favors is a separate website. It's ran by the Department of Defense, and you can enter, part of your entitlement in there, or all of it if you wanted. They do have a $150 minimum order, so if you put less than $150, I'll zero it out because you wouldn't be able to order anything anyway. So, but if you want to put in $1,000, you just type in 1,000 like that. Hit calc and calculate will show you that it's used. If you actually want to order it or request it, then you would click on submit. But since this is not a test site, this is our live site, I'm going to leave that decision up to Adams Central. So we'll put that back to 0 and cancel out. So and then, yeah, just that's the process. You just go through all these different categories, pick out what you want, how many cases per month you want, and be sure to click on submit after you enter all of the numbers. Sometimes people will say, well, I know I did the survey, but there's nothing showing up. And I go, well, probably because you didn't click submit down at the bottom of this page. You got to remember to click submit. So that's about the only hang up I see with this. So yeah, that's about all there is to do in the survey. It's pretty easy. I can go through if there's any other questions or anything on the surveys. I guess maybe we can pause for that right now, and I can go back into the system and talk about allocations, orders, and invoicing later on. But if there's some questions right now, I could take them.
I have a question.
Okay.
Okay. When you're doing this survey, does it save it where if you need to go back and do something like you got to get back to the serving line, does it save it somewhere that you know what I mean?
Yeah, as long as you click on submit, it'll save your work.
Okay, so if I submit it though, if I need to make changes, can I make changes though after I've submitted it?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
you can go back in and edit it after you've submitted it once.
Okay, that was because I started messing with it today, but it was like, where can I save this at to kind of see, what I do and don't want, after I started going through it.
Yeah.
And I just didn't know that to submit it because I thought, well, I could go back out and come back in, but you have to when you go back out of each one, you just better off submitting it, correct?
Yeah, otherwise it won't save it.
Okay.
You have to click on submit in order for it to save it.
And then you can make changes at the end.
Yeah, like if I would put in $100 here and hit submit, it'll show there's $100 being used.
Okay.
But that's not right. So I'm gonna.
Okay. So then at the complete end of the survey that once you submitted and you're good to go, then is there another step, or once you just exit out of it?
Yeah, just each category is kind of an independent process. So after you click submit for cheese, and you got to go back into favors, and then got to go back into fruits and vegetables. And each time you click submit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and I can make all these changes until February 28th, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I won't ask any more questions. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. No,
Okay.
good question.
Chad, Andrew has a question in the chat. We have the best odds of getting an item if it is a truck or full truckload?
Yeah, so the whole point of the survey is to see how many cases of these products are going to be needed. Sometimes there's, and it hardly ever works out that we need an exact truckload of product, so I have to decide if there's like 1 1/4 truckload of demand. Do I order 2 trucks and have 3/4 of a truck as surplus and hope that I can get rid of it by the end of the school year? Some products it might be that I could do that. Other ones, like if it was like, I don't know, Great Northern beans or something like that hardly has any demand, and no, I would not do that. So what I do every year is we with other states in our region, we have a big spreadsheet where we go in and we put our partial truck requests, and if there's another state that has a partial truck and it kind of lines up in the general time frame that we need it, then we can split trucks with other states. So that's good, because there's a lot of things that we only have like maybe a half a truck of demand for some of this stuff, and that's the only way we can get it is if we have another state to split with. So, but yeah, the most popular things, applesauce and ground beef and peaches and pears and that type of thing, I will round up a truck all day on those things because I know that they will go out the door. But other things, we just kind of have to play it by ear and hopefully find another state to match it with.
Any other questions?
Was one more in the chat asking to explain DoD further.
Yeah, so the Department of Defense has a website and they call it FAVORS, and it stands for Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Order Receipt System. And it's similar in look and feel to to this website, but it's where you would divert money from this from USDA foods, order instead of ordering canned and frozen stuff, you would order fresh produce through the Department of Defense Favors website. And just if entering a number into that survey entry there will transfer your dollars from USDA over to the Department of Defense. And it's a process to get username and password for that system. And it's not like you can just call me and say, hey, I need a username and password. I mean, it's like, it takes a while. So I guess be aware of that.
Any other questions? Okay, Chad, you can go on to the next one. Oops.
Oh, yep.
Go
Okay.
ahead.
So after we do the survey, we'll look at the numbers for all the different products, and we will order truckloads of everything into the US Foods warehouse. And I think I'm going to go over to 23 to show you allocations. So here we can see the list of allocations that have been made to Adams Central Schools starting in August. So let's take a look at this right now. Oops, there's only one on that screen. Let's, okay, so here their allocation, they had 100 cases delivered in August. So once we create these allocations, we send an email out and everybody has a chance to look at them and reduce what they don't want anymore. So there's not any allocations open right now, so I can't show you exactly how to do that, but it's basically kind of like this screen here, and it has a place where you can change the number. Like you can only go down in quantity, you can't go up on an allocation. So if you wanted 0 instead of 3, you would just change the number to a 0 and come down to the bottom and click submit. But since we don't have allocations open right now, I can't show you that exact step, but that's how it works. So yeah, you want to be able make sure that you're getting our emails. If you don't see any emails from us in a month, call us and find out why, or maybe look in your spam folder or junk folder or whatever. Sometimes, I mean, it still happens that we send emails out, and even though you're on our emailing list, for some reason email ends up in junk and then you don't know. So we send an email out every month, around the 20th or so. Like for August, we would send that in around the 20th of July, so that you can go in and check what's going to be delivered in the following month. The inventory screen is not used in our system. And then orders. So we talked about reducing allocations earlier, and then, well, what happens to that product if you don't want it anymore? And I said earlier it goes into a surplus category. So here we have a way that other schools can order what somebody else didn't want. So right now we have the March surplus delivery period open. And you can see right here, the delivery period, 3/1 to 3/31. You go over here and click on add. And this is a list of things that we have extra of. And if you wanted to order something here, you just enter the number into the box, come down at the bottom and click next page. And it'll give you a list, and then look at it one more time and then click submit. But since we're not going to actually order this for Adams Central, I'm not going to do it. So any questions on the allocation or order process? I guess one thing I forgot to mention is the allocations that we make, it's based on what you put on the survey and what we have in stock. So there might be times when you have something on the survey, but we don't have it in stock, so it won't get allocated. So I guess be aware of that. If you don't see it on your allocation, it's because it isn't in yet, or it's because we couldn't get a match with another state for a certain item, or could be a lot of different reasons it's not in yet. So, okay, so after the orders are generated, we send a spreadsheet or a manifest to US Foods, and then you can get a hold of them to tell them what day or what time works best. I don't know how flexible they are on their delivery schedule, but I know they do try to accommodate as much as they can. So the next tab over here is invoicing, and you can see Adams Central has a credit on account of $8.35. They have a state credit of $4,000 this year. They've used $1,700 of it, and they have a $2,300 balance. So the way this credit works is that the USDA provides funding to cover distribution charges. Now, one of the rules about that funding is that it has to be for state level expenses. So we can't just cut a check to the schools and give them the money for their food service account. It has to stay at the state level and be used for the intended purpose, which is distribution charges. So whenever I run invoices, it'll just, if there's a credit amount here under state credit, it'll apply that credit automatically. So you won't even get an invoice from us unless your state credit runs out. And the credit amount is based on the fees that you charged, that were charged in the previous year. So for 23, what I did is requested money to cover all the 22 delivery fees, and then that money came into the state account, and then we create state credits so that we can pay that invoice from US Foods and never have to collect money from a school as long as they have a credit account, our state credit on the books in CMP Web. So works out pretty nicely. I think before I worked here, that really wasn't an option. USDA decided they would start covering distribution charges, and they made that money available to states. So we've been, I guess, requesting that every year since then. So that's about all I've got on invoicing. If there are any questions on that.
We did have a question come in from somebody that had intended to join today, but couldn't at the last minute. Her question was surrounding net off invoice. And she said, do I have to commit all of my commodities dollars to a category on the survey, or can I plan to basically save some of it for NOI purchases?
It's really up to the school. It's not gonna hurt anything if they end up going over their entitlement, because there's always schools that don't use all of their entitlement. So that's kind of why we've been pretty lenient with the amount of entitlement that can be used via NOI. So until further notice, I mean, I wouldn't worry about it too much. You can leave, you can actually run a report and see what you used year to date via NOI and also last year. So if you want to, get a feel for how much entitlement you've used in the past, if you continue your same ordering habits, then you probably end up using, pretty close to 100% of your entitlement if you've made really good estimates. So, but don't worry about it if you go over.
Appreciate you answering that. There were a couple more that came in via chat. And the first one, I believe Brian answered, but it said, do we only get one chance to put entitlement money into DOD, or can we add it throughout the year? And Brian had responded and said, you can email Chad or Brian to transfer money into DOD from entitlement into a favors program throughout the school year. So just in case you missed that in the chat, wanted to repeat that. And then another question was, if you have not used DOD favors for over a year, would the password and username still be the same as what was initially set up?
I'm not sure because we don't manage the passwords and stuff for DOD.
Okay. And then appreciate Brian, you putting in Karen Kenton's information into the chat. She's the DOD rep. We will include that in our follow-up correspondence to everybody so that you have that. Another prior question that came in was just curious why they have to have the order for the full next school year in February.
Now the timing in February is because we have to place our orders with the USDA by the end of March, and we need about a month to coordinate the split trucks with other states.
Yeah. That kind of speaks to the other question that came in prior. And it says, if a new director comes on board, maybe say in August, can the allotment be changed if they wish to do something different than maybe what the previous director had selected?
Yeah, but it's not as flexible as it is right now because you can, like I said, you can reduce allocations and you can also place surplus orders. So you don't really know what's going to be available under surplus, but you do know what's going to be allocated, or we're pretty close to what's going to be allocated.
Perfect, thank you. If there's
Hey,
other
Beth, can I jump? Can I jump in here real quick, Beth? This is Brian Gerkensmeyer with Food Distribution Program. I wanted to mention that when you look at those percentages at the beginning, when you log in and it shows you the processors, somebody was asking if they should save out money for entitlement for net off invoice. If there are still percentages in those banks with the processors, even if the entitlement is depleted, you'll still get the net off invoice. That's why it's important to look at those tables, and you'll know even if you don't have any entitlement left, you can still get that net off discount. So keep that in mind when you think about if you're trying to save money for entitlement. It just matters. Some items might not be available if the banks are depleted.
Great answer. We have a question in the chat box. Why doesn't the order have a total?
I think the total is under the invoicing tab. Total quantity or total dollar value?
Sean, did you want a total order or?
I couldn't find my unmute button, sorry. Yes, a total cost.
It's just not, the program just wasn't written that way. If you want to know the value of a certain time period, though, you can run a data export under reports,
Oh,
data file export, data 1070. You can put in the first and last month, or first and last day of the month.
oh my gosh. Didn't know you could do that.
So yeah, there's like what they got in August.
And then you could, if you're a master with an Excel spreadsheet, you could figure out the total. Yeah.
Yeah, and just do an auto sum down at the bottom.
Okay.
Oop, there it is.
Wow.
So you could also do it for the whole school year. That's what the auditors want to see. I know our school year is not over yet, but that's what they got year to date.
But it doesn't include DOD because you manually have to do that after the school year, correct?
Right. Yeah, we don't update DoD every week like we do NOI because we just don't have a data interface to do it with.
Chad, what happens if they don't use all their entitlement in a school year?
Nothing. And they just don't get as much food as they could have. But it doesn't, there's no penalty. I mean, we don't, come knocking on their door, but we will call them if they're not doing the survey.
And it's like passing up free food, free.
Yeah. You'd be amazed. People say, oh yeah, we're gonna do the survey, and then they just totally blow it off and don't do it. Right, Brian?
I'm always doing a campaign. About halfway through February, I start calling everybody that hasn't entered, and I can tell if they've entered the survey or not because the button changes from edit to view and edit. And I usually have a small handful of daycares and schools that end up missing the survey. Some of them do it by accident. There's a few that just don't want to mess with it. And if someone does miss the survey, then I try to help them out by showing them how they can put money into favors for schools and also add surplus items throughout the year. But I mean, that's a limited thing from them to choose from. So I really try to get everybody to do the survey. I hate to see people cut the band program because they didn't save $50,000 on free food and spend it out of pocket instead.
Any more questions?
Well, I learned something immensely important with that reports function. Is there anything under reports that would be beneficial for us to know, Chad?
Sean, you've got a state login, don't you?
I do, but
So you can get access to all these exports here. I don't know.
Does the district have reports that they can generate?
Yeah, it's not as extensive as this, but let me log in as a school and see what they look like. So value of commodities shipped, what I just showed, and processor transactions. So they can look at like 1067 is a summary, like it'll just show how many pounds of what commodity were used with the processor. And then 1069 shows the individual end products. So it'll show the commodity processed, the processor, and then the end products, but the individual products, chicken nuggets or pizza or whatever.
And why would I want to know those things?
Well, it would be useful to, if you're going to have a bid, if you wanted to put a bid out and you wanted to say, I want to bid everything I used last year, then you could pull a report and show the number of products that you used, how much commodity dollars were used on it. If you're going to try to get rebates or do fee for service or different value pass-through methods through a different distributor. So be useful in that situation.
Sean, this is Janet calling from Wilbur. Hey, I had to actually go onto this and get a report because my bookkeeper needed it for the auditing committee. So I actually was able to pull it. So this actually helped me out.
Which report did you use? 1070?
Yeah, I think so. I whatever I needed, I got. So I was like messing around on this thing. So yeah, I just looked. Okay.
Yeah.
So there is a report that I could get that helped me out. So that was a saving grace since I was in the middle of the year. So.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, the begin date, end date, it works best if you enter the first and last day of whatever month time frame you're looking at. Sometimes it'll throw it off if it's not the end, like the last date. If you put like the 23rd for the end date, it won't catch all of the allocations because some of them may have been created after the 28th or 23rd. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, you always want to put the first day and the last day of the month for whatever time frame you're looking at.
Hey, Chad,
Yeah.
can you go back into reports? And I want to show them the survey request report. So aside from the data file export ones, yeah, can you back up?
Oh, okay.
The survey request report, you can export or run that. Retrieve, export, we'll put it in an Excel file format. And this shows everything that was requested on the report. It doesn't necessarily mean that's what's going to be allocated and delivered. But whenever I get new food service managers calling me, trying to figure out how to navigate through this system, and they didn't do the pre-order survey, I'll have them run this report or send it to them. And you can also go into prior years to see what the ordering pattern was if somebody's a newbie and they're just starting and they're kind of in the dark on how to do food pattern ordering. If they have confidence in whoever was the food service manager that retired or whatever, they can go back into a prior year and take a look at this, and you can print it and you can put it in export format, which puts it in Excel. Some people like to print their stuff out on paper and can serve as a guide.
Yeah, good point. I haven't looked at that screen for a long time. I kind of forgot it was there.
That's all right.
I'm glad you pointed out you can navigate years.
Yep. You would just switch program year up there in the upper right-hand corner if you wanted to look at a different year.
There any other questions? These have been really helpful questions, I know, for my own learning benefit too. So hopefully they've been helpful for you, but now's your chance. So feel free to unmute and ask away or type your questions in the chat.
This
And
is
of
Rachel
course-
with Fort Calhoun Community Schools. I joined late, so I very well may have missed this question being asked previously, but I am doing this for the first time, just took over at the beginning of the school year. And in doing so, have realized that there was a very small amount of money put into the DoD program, and we ran out very quickly with what we used. Looking at our allocations and dividing everything out, I did the entitlement survey and put on there nearly double the money that was in there this year, thinking that if we needed other things, I can more readily purchase those versus the fresh fruit and vegetables that we get through that program. Does anybody have any words of caution or any advice on this, if this is a good plan or not?
I would put as much money into the DoD as you think you're going to use. And I would use all of your order as much on the survey as you think you will use. And if you are running out of money, wait, to look at the surplus orders, because there's going to be bonus surplus every month next year. So
that's what I was thinking also. I frequently decrease my entitlement and claim that bonus. And so I thought if I end up running into issues on shortages of things, I can try to work things that way also.
yeah. Yeah, I guess the thing to remember right now is just use as much entitlement as you think you're gonna go through. If you think you can use it all and order, or request everything that you can. I mean, I don't want you to order too much, and then if everybody ordered too much, then we'd have surplus coming out of our years at the end of the school year. So
Right.
Order what
No, I think looking at what she had put in last year and what we have used so far this school year, I think that with that money allocated towards the DoD, I can equal that out fairly well. I'm only worried that I might be short on what I need or could use of entitlement and what I've actually allocated.
Okay, well, if we get into the school year and you think maybe you put too much money into DoD, we can pull it out and put it back into CMP Web if you want.
Sure, I think that's fine. I'm just worried of the entitlement, other like the survey items. If I didn't claim, or if I claimed some of those and then I need more than what I got and it's available via surplus or extra entitlement. I guess that's the whole thing, not bonus. So if it's bonus, obviously it's free, but sometimes there's extra things entitlement on there. So if that's something and that's available, but the funding is running short in that account, is what I'm questioning.
Yeah, well, I guess it'd just be better to request it up front. I think I'd probably do it that way. Just, if it's something you're going to use, I would enter it on the survey now.
Okay.
So I have a question. When you see some schools must be like pros at getting bonus, because then I see that negative usage number. Is that because they are pros at using bonus?
Well, you see a negative entitlement remaining. Is that what you mean?
Yes, yes.
So yeah, what happened in school year 23 is the prices went up on everything. The survey was done with values from school year 22. So when we create the allocation, it'll reconcile the entitlement to what the product actually, to what the USDA actually paid for it. So if let's say that you had $100 of entitlement and you ordered a case of ground beef for $100, you had zero entitlement left. Well, the ground beef went up to $150 a case. As soon as we allocate it, it's going to hit the entitlement for 150 instead of 100. So you'll be negative 50 on your entitlement. So that's why a lot of schools have negative entitlements, because the value of the food went up over the course of the year compared to what it was on the survey when they filled it out.
So what happens then?
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay.
They got more value than what they were planning. It's actually
get
called an adjusted assistance value instead of a planned assistance level,
I got it. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So those that are experts at utilizing bonus, where would that show up?
Let's see here, under the entitlement screen, or yeah, the entitlement tab, and you've got bonus. If they would have ordered something that was bonus, it would have showed up here under bonus. Let me log off and get back in as a state user. We'll find, I know somebody that does that a lot.
Like just must, the minute you send that email is on getting their bonus.
Yeah. Yeah, so here's Fremont Public Schools. They got $55,000 in bonus.
Okay.
So yeah. And that's how, we have to do that. Otherwise we would have, tons of inventory sitting there and not, going bad, So I'm glad that some schools can do that, or have the space to store it or can use it or whatever,
Yeah.
Any more questions? Does anybody else have any more questions? Okay.
Anybody can call me anytime during the year, summertime, school year, if you need some help. If you got a new food service manager, if you're not sure where you're doing with CMP Web, because it's easy to forget something when you only do it once a month, just feel free to call me. I'm more than happy to help.
Yeah, same here. We're here to help.
Everybody's going to be calling you every month now.
I'm okay with that. I'm going to be calling them all here in about 2 weeks. So
Yeah, if you don't do your survey, you're going to get a call.
Well, the people on this are doing their survey. It's all those other folks out there.
Yeah, this crowd's probably not the ones that are going to be the ones that are going to blow it off, but I'm just joking.
Okay, anything else? Okay, we want to thank Chad and Brian for taking time out of their day to help us out learning the commodities. in how to do the survey and get some of those reports. And of course, the bonuses, because everybody likes those bonuses. I think some people sit at their desk waiting for those bonuses to come out. So if we don't have any other questions, we will be posting it. We can send a email out with the recording for everybody that was on today also.
Probably be early part of next week is what I'm shooting for.
That'll be great. Thanks, Lauren. Because I know she's going to be busy with her fresh fruit and vegetable programs claims next week. So we appreciate that. So I want to thank everybody for joining us today, and we will see you later. Thank you.